friends, and welcome to Sustainable Prepping, your home for fear-free emergency preparedness and a sustainable life. My name is Brecky, and today we are doing a laundry chat. I have to get some chores done, but I wanted to make a video, so this is one of the ways that I can do that. I haven't done a laundry chat in a while, but I have a couple of topics that have been really on my mind and in my heart that I really wanted to talk about. So we're gonna go ahead and dive in. You're gonna see me folding laundry while we chat. This is just like if you were over here hanging out with me and we were talking about important topics in our lives. If you're new here, I wanna say a great big welcome. I hope you keep on joining me. And if you're not new, I wanna say welcome back. We are building a community, one conversation at a time. So it's now cold and flu season and making the rounds on Instagram, and I'm sure on YouTube, though I curate my list so I'm not seeing as much of this anymore. There are a lot of people who are talking about Big Pharma. And essentially, one of the people that I was following was talking about how Big Pharma made $1 trillion and you don't actually need Big Pharma. You can solve all of your health problems at home, and follow me to learn how to can chicken broth and how to make your own herbal remedies and how to use essential oils for health. And I've seen this from people who identify as very progressive, very skeptical of institutions, very skeptical of anything that benefits from capitalism, which Big Pharma absolutely does. But I've also seen this, of course, from people who are more conservative, who are suspicious of government, who don't want to rely on anything that they cannot do for themselves and not their communities, like themselves specifically. And here's the thing, they're both wrong. They're both wrong. It's a wrong approach, it's a bad philosophy, and it's a philosophy that's going to lead to people dying. And I'm very passionate about this because you'll hear me say this 1,000 times in my videos. I was trained as a historian and I grew up as a living historian, and I read primary documents. And people died from a lot of stuff that we cure very simply with pharmaceutical drugs. Now, I want to also pause here and say, I don't like Big Pharma. Big Pharma is an unregulated monstrosity that absolutely needs to be regulated, and we absolutely over-depend on prescription drugs like antibiotics that we prescribe for everything. However, penicillin is the reason we got out of the last global pandemic. The discovery of penicillin and the ability to synthesize it in a lab, which is, you can't do at home. Penicillin, people think penicillin was actually discovered from bread. It wasn't bread mold, it was cantaloupe mold. That was sort of discovered. Bread mold, cantaloupe mold, all these different molds were analyzed because a scientist realized that mold and bacteria don't like each other. And they harnessed this to create penicillin, right? But you can't synthesize penicillin at home. I don't care how sophisticated your homestead is, you can't do it at home. You need lab grade machinery, lab grade synthesizing, and you need to be a biologist. I mean, you need to be a chemist to be able to do this high level chemistry. So you can't synthesize your own real antibiotics. And now that we have antibiotic resistant bacteria, now that we have evolved viruses, a lot of your home remedies that grandma used aren't as effective. So on that level alone, this anti-pharmaceuticals at all costs is misleading and it's misinformed. Okay, here's the other thing, and this is the thing that made me really frustrated and decide to do this video. I have family members and very close friends who have type 1 diabetes. I have a family member who was born with type 1 diabetes, right? His pancreas just has never worked. He lives with an insulin pump. And I have two friends who, through illness, they got viral infections, and these viral infections led to type 1 diabetes, not type 2. Type 2 theoretically could be managed with very strict diet and exercise. We're talking about type 1 diabetes. You must have insulin injections. And I have two friends as adults. A friend of mine, after her second pregnancy, got really sick, and what came out of it was type 1 diabetes. And another friend who, his youth pastor actually, and got really sick with a viral infection, and it ended up attacking his pancreas, and now he has type 1 diabetes and he has an insulin pump. And what is so frustrating is when people come in and they tell you you're going to live a holistic and healthy life and we're going to get you off your pharmaceuticals and Big Pharma is evil. They don't realize that Big Pharma is necessary. You cannot synthesize insulin at home. You can't do it. And if you want to take some time to go and research the death rates of people with diabetes, it's pretty wild how high it is. Now, there are some people who will say, well, back in the day, they could synthesize pig hormones and blah, blah, blah. Okay, can you do that? Do you have the time to do that? Are you going to set up a lab to do that? And recognize that it didn't have perfect rates of functioning. Like it was not something that had a 100% success rate. Now, Big Pharma absolutely overcharges for insulin. They are villains in this story. I agree that the deregulation and our emphasis on deregulation because of a fear of government oversight means that something that could be a net neutral is now perceived as a net evil. EpiPens costing more than like $2 is proof that Big Pharma is greedy and doesn't have enough regulation. I don't disagree with that. But anybody that tells you on YouTube, on Instagram, in a blog post, in a book, that you will never need pharmaceuticals and you can solve all your problems with an organic diet and with your herbal remedies and with good fresh air and essential oils is lying to you. And the question I have is what happens when that person who stops their blood pressure medication because they've watched a YouTuber who somehow used colloidal silver to get over their high blood pressure, they die. They stroke out and die. Whose fault is that? What do we do with somebody who has thyroid issues and they watch the YouTuber, and this is a YouTuber I like, even though we disagree a lot politically, but they are well known for their home remedies to get people off of thyroid medication. What if somebody does that and they die? If a doctor prescribes something, they can face charges. I mean, there's a reason why there's a medical malpractice insurance, because doctors are supposed to be held accountable. What about influencers? How are we holding ourselves accountable? Now, again, like I said in the beginning of the video, I think we have an over-reliance on pharmaceuticals, but this idea that it has to be either or, either you go all in for Western medicine, pharmaceuticals, allopathic, everything, or you reject all of it, to me, that is the system gaming you. Why not take the best of both worlds? Why not work with pharmaceuticals? Why not take the best of what pharmaceuticals have to offer? Support people who need insulin, advocate for insulin to be free or cost effective, advocate for common medications to not cost an arm and a leg. Most of them don't actually cost a lot to make, it's just oversight. And the argument, this is one of the arguments that people who don't want like universal health care and things like that, is that the extra money they make fuels invention, which is bullshit. You know what fuels invention? Government grants, that's what fuels invention. But no one wants to say that if you don't like the government. The point is, as we're heading into a really bad season for RSV, as we are heading into the season where people have colds and people are going to start talking about the Big Pharma and turning Big Pharma into this evil entity, let's remember that it's actually a net neutral. It's how Big Pharma is used. And yes, it's greedy because it's unregulated, right? The people who own Big Pharma are bad people, many of them, right? The opioid addiction crisis in West Virginia is a good example of that. But pharmaceuticals are a net neutral. How you use your pharmaceuticals, whether they're abused and overprescribed, whether they're too expensive to be of use to the average person, whether they are regulated or unregulated, that's a net neutral. And if you need insulin, if you need blood pressure medication, if you need migraine medication, take it. Science serves humanity. It can be abused, of course it can, but it's a net neutral. Science is a discipline of observing the effects of physical reality upon each other. That's what science is. And if you can find a medication that helps you have improved life, then who cares if it's an herbal remedy that you got yourself or a pharmaceutical? I have a friend who gets Botox injections all across her scalp for migraines, and they have cut her migraines in half. She had debilitating migraines. Now, if you guys don't know this, Botox is botulism, okay? Botox is botulism that you are injecting into your face. This is why I don't understand elective Botox to keep your wrinkles away. Botulism, my friends, is everything that we are trying to prevent when we are home canning food, but you inject it electively into your face. For her though, the ability to freeze the muscles, which is what the botulism does, which is what Botox does, it freezes the muscles, it helps her prevent really debilitating migraines. You can't do that at home with a home remedy. She's done all the home remedies for years. She's 40, she's been working on this for 20 years. She's been trying to figure out all kinds of things. She lives in Colorado. She has access to all kinds of alternative medicines. And the thing that has worked is Botox injections. Botox injections and a pharmaceutical drug. Why would we shame her for doing something that improves the quality of her life and her ability to function well? Anyway, this is kind of a rambling topic, but I just really want to say, because I am a liberal, I'm a progressive, I lean left, right? And I have a lot of people in that camp here, but I know that there are some conservatives that watch me. And you don't have to pick a side. You don't have to pick and say, well, I really like making my own cough syrup because it's just about as good as over the counter, so I'm never going to use a pharmaceutical again. Why? Why pick sides on something where your best benefit is to take the best of both worlds? Why would anybody want you to not take the best of both worlds? They have this magical thinking idea, y'all, that if they just grow their own food and make their own medicine, they're never gonna get sick. But then they idolize Laura Ingalls Wilder books and forget that Mary went blind from scarlet fever. I had scarlet fever as a kid. It's still a thing. It's not eradicated. I didn't go blind, obviously. I didn't have any long-term effects because I had medication that helped my brother and I. But we had scarlet fever. We had to be quarantined in our house. I remember because my cousins went to Disney World and were supposed to come visit us on the way back, and they came and they waved at us from the hallway because we were quarantined in my bedroom, but we couldn't play with them because we had scarlet fever. These things are real. And I just want there to be a voice that says, you don't have to give it all up to live a natural lifestyle. There is a way to walk with both worlds. You don't have to live totally from scratch off the land. You grow everything and you never buy another packaged item again. For 90+% of us, that would kill us. And it killed people. There's a reason why people died at 55 back in the day. It killed people. It wrecked their mental and emotional health. That's a lot of work for any one person, including being responsible for the healthcare too. I mean, that is just bonkers. You also don't have to be somebody who goes to OTC or pharmaceutical drugs for every little cough and sniffle. You can decide to try to handle all of your colds, runny noses, hay fever at home with home remedies. And then if there's something like a bacterial infection, if there is someone who has high blood pressure that's not coming down with diet, you lean into pharmaceuticals to help. There can be balance, and that's all I want to say is in this long rambly video, don't discount modern medicine because you have an idealized understanding of homesteading or sustainable living or earth care. We can walk a middle road that balances the best of science and the best of home remedies, and they can serve us both rather than excluding one or the other because of some unfounded ideals. That's all I wanted to say. I've got more laundry to fold, but I know I'm rambling, so I'm gonna let you all go. But if you wanna keep the conversation going, particularly on this topic, because I'd love your insights, especially if you are someone who is in the medical field or if you're someone who uses a lot of home remedies, let me know how you balance these two worlds. Let me know in the comments here, and you can find me over on Instagram and in the Facebook group. I'd love to keep this conversation going. As always, I hope you guys are all well and you stay safe and you are preparing for, if you're in the United States, a good Thanksgiving week, and if you're not, a good cozy week with family. And as always, happy